7 o'clock, this is Eamon Falvey. Good evening. Protesters will not succeed in changing government policy on accommodating refugees. That's the view of the Junior Integration Minister after a number of demonstrations against the accommodation of asylum seekers. He says some of those involved in the protests are racists. Minister Joe O'Brien told the Hard Shoulder here on News Talk that the Guards are monitoring those who might use the protest to spread racism.
There is a Garda issue there, and the Gardaí are very aware, and they're monitoring people who are trying to mobilise and spread hate and spread racism as well. They're not going to change policy. They're not going to move people out of communities because people are embedded in communities.
More than 2,500 offers of social housing were turned down in Dublin City in the past 3 years. There were 7,693 refusals across 20 local authorities during the same period. Many local authorities run a choice-based letting system. It allows people to apply for available housing within their council area. The independent councillor with Meath County Council, Nick Killian, says the new system has helped to reduce the number of refusals.
Choice-based letting, though, is the one that has actually done the reduction. So on choice-based letting, and I'll apply and accept that particular house, and then I turn it down after going through all the rigours of applying for it, accepting it and all of that. So if you reject the house that you've actually, through the choice-based letting, that you have actually refused, you'll be suspended on the list for a year.
Nursing and medical graduates should be required to stay in the country for a number of years after they graduate. That's according to a member of the Oireachtas Health Committee. It's due to hear from the HSE tomorrow about hospital overcrowding, among other issues. The Fianna Fáil TD for Clare Cathal says graduates should be incentivised to stay here.
I believe we now are at the point where, and we've dithered and spoken with this far too long, but I think we need to have some national stipulation that those completing nursing or medical training in Ireland should remain in this country. And I'm not talking, this should be more carrot than stick. This isn't about going heavy on people who are graduating and leaving. This, we want to encourage and entice them back.
And that's your news update. It's 2 minutes past 7.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. No weekend plans? We'll fix that with flights to Barcelona, Lisbon or Madrid.
Tonight will be very cold with a widespread severe frost, patches of mist and fog and icy stretches, lows of -5 to -1 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
Welcome along to Monday night's Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock as we pick through the weeds of that weekend, and there is no shortage of, exciting football to talk about. Firstly, Arsenal. Any doubters out there anymore? 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League table as we head for the halfway stage. They beat Spurs comfortably in the North London derby. Manchester United, what a turnaround from the last Manchester derby. 5 straight league victories, just 1 defeat in 11 in the Premier League since that game at the Etihad after coming from behind controversially to beat City on Saturday. Philippe Auclair and Jonathan Wilson coming up on the football show. And what about Everton? Absolute crisis on the pitch and off the pitch as well. Their directors advised not to turn up for the match at the weekend. Dominic King's going to join us at 7:30 to see what's going on and where Everton go from here. And after 8 o'clock, we'll reflect on all the weekend's rugby, and we'll talk about Eddie Jones going back to Australia as well. Let us know what you were watching. Let us know what excited you over the weekend. 53106 is the text number. Add Off the Ball if you want to get in touch on social media. Richie McCormack is with us. Evening, Richie.
Nathan, how are you?
I'm alright, and Mick McCarthy is alongside me in studio. How are you?
Nathan, you're 3 days early for work.
Listen, Monday, the big show. Delighted to get the opportunity.
The
big one, yeah.
Nice to have you.
Good to be here. Good to be here. How was your weekend?
It was sport-filled.
Sport-filled?
Do you know last week was one of those awful sporting weekends where you're kind of...
FA Cup.
Yeah, the FA Cup, even the FA Cup was fine, but it was just, there was no, everything was unessential last weekend. And then you come into this week and it was like you couldn't move for it between, I think, Champions Cup, Premier League, the best Premier League weekend in a long, long time, and NFL playoffs. I don't know if that's floats a few boats, I would imagine. So that's your night's gone for Saturday and Sunday night anyway, and then the next morning
how late
when
do
you're
you
trying
stay
to
up?
catch
Because
up.
I was at the Soccer Writers Awards were on Saturday night, and I was half watching the NFL out of the corner of my eye at about 1 a.m. and then I got home just before 2 and thought, I'll stay up for another little while and watching this. And then you wake up in the morning and go, this is why I stopped watching. I'll tell you why I stopped watching NFL. Because when I was over in England at Premier League games, I'd arrive back into my house at about 1 a.m. on a Sunday night from the airport.
Time for it, yeah.
But then you sit down, you watch it, and it's 3:30, and you're up with the kids. And so I said, I'm done with NFL. I'm just going to stick to the golf on a Sunday night. So,
Yeah.
am I missing one of the great seasons?
Not particularly, but it has the potential to turn into one now. It was a brilliant weekend. They weren't not that we're going to spend too long on this, but we weren't expecting it to be such a good weekend. There was a lot of what seemed to be one-sided games, and it ended up a lot of classics, including one, a comeback from the Chargers were beating the Jags 27-0 at half-time. That game's basically over, and Jags came back and won it with a last-second field goal. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff. Really, really entertaining. I don't stay up as late as I used to. I find that I might just hit record or else watch like the highlights the next morning of the game that I fell asleep during. Yeah, those days are gone, Nathan. I used to fall asleep halfway through the late game. Now I'm falling asleep halfway through the medium game, the 11:30, 12 o'clock one.
The Hawaii swing and golf used to be my favourite time of the year, where you sort of felt like it was only the hardcore nerds who'd still be up at 2:30 in the morning watching the Sony Open. But that is beyond me now as well. And I think with
it's
this
a sad
year's
time.
Sony
It's a
Open,
sad
I
time.
missed
You have
out.
to leave it to the youth. We have to get them in here to tell us what's been happening in these middle of the night games. But I remember a time when I would stay up, like I was like working at a pub, and I would come home and I would watch baseball. Like just like regular season baseball, one of 162 games, and I would watch it till 4 or 5 in the morning.
I'm going to America in a few months with the kids, and I want to obviously include some sporting events. They're soccer mad, so they want to go see the MLS, and I'm like, it's kind of just going to be like any soccer game you see. So they really want to go to basketball. They're not convinced on the baseball. Is there a way of convincing a 10-year-old that baseball? I'm like, you can have as much Coca-Cola as you want.
It's the food.
Is that the only thing to keep them going?
It's a kind of a 3-hour sort of treat extravaganza.
Like I went with the spend some quality time with your father line, and that didn't sway them at all.
Work.
Okay,
yeah, they could buy some cool
Is it as
memorabilia.
intense entertainment?
You will
experience
spend a
as
fortune,
basketball
but they'll
game?
enjoy it.
Okay,
yeah.
Is it as intense a entertainment experience as a basketball game?
I find that I've been to games where that you'll watch it and it's good and it's a proper game, but the generic kind of like Tuesday night in the middle of the season, 90% of people are barely watching the game.
Okay.
They're just there for the atmosphere, and it is fun. It is I would, if the lads were here now, I'd tell them, lads, you got to be going, but I don't know how much they're going to be watching any baseball.
All right.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I was just getting a bit of research there for a
Nathan just wanted to drop that he's going off to America in a few
No, I
weeks'
just
time.
wanted to get a bit of research to see what I should do when I'm there.
The basketball,
regret saying it now.
we did Knicks Celtics 7 years ago when I was in New York in Madison Square Garden, and that was great. But like any basketball match, unless it's very one-sided, it's just going to come down to the fourth quarter when it actually matters anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like the whole packaging of a sporting occasion in America is completely different to anything we're used to here. So literally, even an MLS match, I'd imagine, will be in stark contrast to what they're usually getting in Tala, your lot. So yeah, it'd be.
Is that good or
great.
bad?
Are they going to see
No,
teams lifting trophies every match they go to?
I just think the MLS generally, because of the audience that they're trying to garner over there and have been trying to garner for the last 30 years nearly, they do have to up the entertainment stakes a little bit. So it's a little bit more razzmatazz, even not as much as the old NASL, but still worth a shot.
Where are you going?
I'm going to be around Atlanta.
Oh,
I have
Atlanta
loads there.
MLS is actually great. Apparently,
Yeah.
they're
They get
good
huge
fan
crowds.
base, yeah.
All right,
Oh,
so
the
there's a few
Atlanta
different.
Braves have
I've
been-
looked. The Braves are playing when I'm
Atlanta,
there.
what a strange place to go on holidays.
Listen, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm not revealing any more details on it.
Sorry, is this in April?
I'm not revealing any more details.
You're going to Georgia in April.
It's a family vacation to Atlanta, great sporting city. It's all
Great
about
Irish
right,
memories
okay.
there, of course. As
Okay,
well.
what?
all I'm saying.
Right.
Anyway, sporting highlights of the weekend. Talking points. So the North London derby, I think Arsenal were obviously very impressive. The Manchester derby, the offside decision. Dear
Here
God.
we go.
Dear
Yeah,
God.
we will talk about the football.
I'm glad of the wonders of modern media. I was making a point to a friend of mine afterwards about the offside, and it was the letter of the law. And I'm like, there's no letter of the law. He clearly interferes with play. And I was saying, imagine if you were to be able to take Rashford out of the entire situation and just watch it. Do you think everyone would move in the exact same way? There's absolutely no chance they would. And therefore he's affecting it. And thankfully somebody actually was able to do that. Take Rashford out and watch it. And Akanji looks like he's hobbling along because he's not running in a straight line at all. Ederson is looking at Rashford rather than looking at Fernandes. listen, the offside rule, we've seen the Salah goal recently where the defender heads it back and Salah's a mile off. This was the most ridiculous decision we'll see all season.
Yeah, what I was most grimmed out about actually was look, I mean, you can't be really surprised anymore, but the way fans respond based on how it affects their, team. So it's like Manchester United fans are like, cry more, or, pointing out to Peter Cech about an offside, who's giving out about the rule about an offside decision in 2010. And like, this is like blue tick journalists, Manchester United fans who are doing this. Like, it's absolutely pathetic, right? But forget about all that. Like that's just the annoying part of it. But the actual rule part of it, that's like, you're seeing people saying, praising Marcus Rashford's role in the goal, while also saying, he didn't interfere with play. The rules of rules people, by the way, are the worst people in sport. The kind of people, the letter of the law says, common sense says that Marcus Rashford was running with the ball and just so didn't happen to touch it. He actually dummied it at one stage. How is that not interfering with the play? Like, it's actually so dumb. So it's two things. It's like, one, he is interfering with play, and you can have an interpretation by the letter of the law whatever way you want, right? So the referee should have disallowed it. But two, the fact that the law gives him that out is so ridiculous. Like, it's these idiots writing a game, trying to make a simple game complicated, and therefore tying themselves up in knots and all these scenarios happen that they can't envision because they don't actually understand football. And then a referee can allow a goal where, and by the way, Marcus Rashford later in the game, if it happened, right, cross comes into him, the paint of his boot is offside, doesn't in any way give him any advantage or anything like that, and he headers it into the goal. That goal is disallowed. But when he has an advantage of like 3 feet that he's offside by, and Fernandes scores the goal, that's not deemed an advantage. You know what I mean? That's how broken. Like, think about what the hell is offside for. I'm on a full-on rant now. I'm going to fire back.
No, but there's no consistency. If Bruno Fernandes has a shot from 30 yards out and Marcus Rashford is in an offside position and it's in front of the goalkeeper, it'll be ruled out because he's interfering with play. Yeah. But he can almost shield the ball, just guide it into the path of Bruno Fernandes, and somehow that's not interfering with play.
Yeah, it's not nonsense. To mention that you're talking about the City defender like chasing him instead of going to Fernandes. He also stepped up to play him offside. It was a defensive move that did it. So that's necessarily then he's on the back foot, having done his job and played Rashford offside. Absolutely stupid. And by the way, I just this isn't about Man United or Man City. The best thing to happen for a neutral in that match was City to lose it and give Arsenal. People feel that Arsenal need 8 points for it to be an actual title race. Further it is now, the closer it will be in May. That's what, you know what I mean? It's the neutral wanted United to win that game. It's nothing to do with that. So stop with the kind of anti-United sort of element of it and just understand that sometimes you just want what's right in the game.
Arsenal are 8 points clear now. City, again, had moments in the game where they looked quite good and did look at 1-0 as if we might reflect it and go, City not at their very best, but the experience of champions. And yes, Manchester United have improved since the 6-3, but probably still a bit a way off. The fact that City can't get any form at all is, I think, a large part of the reason that people feel maybe Arsenal can actually go and see this out. A large part of me, just for my own joy, wants me to see Arsenal go 10 points clear with 8 games left and have a full-on Kevin Keegan moment, just for the joy for the neutral towards the end of the season. Yeah. But bloody hell, they were impressive yesterday. It's a North London derby. Tottenham are pain to play against, and it was just so comfortable. And there's such a consistency to their level of play and the level of their attacking play, like Odegaard and Saka. Martinelli was a bit quieter, but Nketiah slips in. Xhaka's been exceptional defensively. There's nothing really there. If they don't win it, they're going to be there until the last fortnight of the season at the very least, which is, I think, what everybody wants. And City, I don't know. City play Spurs on Thursday night. Arsenal play United. This could extend rather quickly. 53106 is the text number. That's why soccer has laws rather than rules. Laws are generally open to interpretation. Rules are not. Nathan, if there's games on, go to an ice hockey game. I've been to an ice hockey game many years ago in Tampa Bay, which was it's very similar to the basketball experience. There's a game going on.
Oh, brilliant.
It's not really relevant to the outcome of the entire season, but there's a whole lot of excitement and entertainment.
And great fans go to ice hockey games. They're really hardcore. Went to one in LA, Anaheim, whatever, for the Ducks, and it went to double overtime or a shootout, I think. and it was just class. But again, it was just like it was a mid-season game that probably didn't matter, but you kind of enjoy the night for what it is then. Not everything is always about the
showbiz,
race. Maybe. No, but it's a kind of a nicer sport in a way, because the game is about the game as opposed to worrying about where you are in the table the entire time or what the context of it is in a wider sense.
Hey guys, for the United goal, the offside rule should always benefit the attacking team. The main fault is clearly with the defenders not playing to the whistle, which is commonplace now. At least Pep acknowledged that. Brian Clough also famously said, if players can't interfere with play, then why the hell are they on the pitch? Says Peter in Cork. You see,
sure, you can't interfere with play if you're in an offside position.
If Akanji decides, actually I'm just going to sprint after this for Bruno Fernandes, and Rashford's in his way, and he literally just clatters him and throws him out of his way, does everyone go fine? It was, Rashford shouldn't have been there.
No, funny enough, that's how messed up the rule was. Akanji could be like VAR'd for a red card, and it would be ruled out because Rashford would be offside and interfering with play. You know what I mean? That's I think anyway, isn't
no,
that
I think no.
Because the foul can't happen because there's an offside.
If it was violent conduct, he'd be sent off anyways.
Okay.
Regardless, but if he had fouled Rashford and there was no red card or yellow card, it would have been stopped.
The free kick would
have been overturned for offside. Yeah. So he would have been better off fouling him than just standing behind him and letting it run through.
But okay, I get the play the whistle thing, and I actually do agree with that the rule should benefit the attacking team, right? But this isn't. That's not what this is. The rule was he had it again. The whole problem with offside at the moment is it's so like binary. You either are or you aren't, and people really get angry about that because that's how they define it. But it should be more: is there an advantage or isn't? There's a reason the offside rule is there, and it's not because players are standing, with a shoulder offside. But that's fine.
I don't mind the being offside by a millimetre. Like there has to be a line somewhere.
Grand, okay. I think the thicker lines was a good idea. They haven't gone thick enough, whatever. But I don't like the idea of just ruling out goals for the sake of it because a video is like a linesman knows the difference between on and off. If it's an advantage. Do you see what I mean? And this was an advantage. It clearly is. And just because you didn't touch the ball doesn't change anything.
We'll get to the news round in just a moment, but the highlight of the weekend for a lot of people was at Croke Park yesterday, the All-Ireland Junior Final. Never before has there been such interest and hype around the All-Ireland Junior Final. And David Clifford delivered as ever, 11 points, and was sent off 6 red cards between Fossa and Stewartstown. I feel sorry for everybody involved because like junior games, they're meant to just sort of take place and nobody takes too much notice of them. And everyone can tear lumps out of each other and they just move on with their lives. But now David Clifford rocks up and suddenly the eyes of the world are on them. 6 people are sent off and they're going, what are you expecting? Now listen, there was some moments of absolute tuggery, particularly the hit on Paudie Clifford, which was a disgrace. I was following it on Twitter. I was doing commentary of the Chelsea game. But the Paudie Clifford speech at the end of the game.
To the referee and to his officials, obviously a tough game there to ref at the end. A good job other than the end when I was finally sent off. Unbelievable how I was sent off. And so but a great job all around.
I love how he's just talking as he's thinking, unbelievable how I was sent off. Unbelievable. One of the great Croke Park speeches.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I actually didn't see it live, and then all I could see was my Twitter feed lighting up with "and now to liars." And
it would be brilliant if you had it. And I'll tell you, we won by 3 points. But if Johnny had passed me the ball, we would have had a goal early in the match. My own teammate out to screw me. He's going to be on the show tomorrow night, so we can find out his thoughts on the entire game. And I know some people look at the hit he took, and Jesus, it was absolute savage. Was he a little bit concussed when he got up there, and he was trying to think of his feet, and it wasn't coming to him as quickly as possible. And should you be criticising referees like that? Did feel like it was said with a little bit of humour.
I think so. I think I think so. I think he was having a bit of a laugh there. I hope we can enjoy that. I hope we can accept that. Something like that is a bit of fun when he's getting the Cup for an All-Ireland title for his club, no? Yeah. Is it something we have to take too seriously and say you shouldn't be talking about referees?
It's a definite cheat code having David and Paudie Clifford on a junior football team.
Well,
it's outrageous. It's outrageous. Richie, let us get to the news round, which is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. So some rather interesting rugby news came through late last night. Are you back, Richie? Oh, you're
I'm
back.
back.
You
I'm
just
back,
dropped off
Bernard.
for a split second.
Eddie Jones has been appointed as Australia's head coach, replacing Dave Rennie, effective as of the 29th of this month. It ends Rennie's spell in charge, having replaced Michael Cheika at the end of 2019. Under Rennie, the Wallabies had won just 5 of their last 17 outings, losing to Ireland, France and Italy during November alone. Jones' new deal ties him to the Australia job until 2027, and he could face his former employers, England, as soon as the quarter-final stage of the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I'm all for this. I've got to say, I like Eddie Jones. I don't like what he's about. I don't think it feels a little bit uncomfortable saying you like Eddie Jones, because he's, not a great person in the way he treats his staff and the way he treats his players, and his coaching methods seem so outdated. Yet 8 months out from a World Cup, Gatland back, Eddie Jones back. Sort of spicy one.
This is brilliant for the game. Like, it's brilliant for the interest in the World Cup. Brilliant for the interest that we'll have in Australia, which is like another team, a team that we don't think about all that often, I think, anymore. I saw this news and started like maniacally laughing last night. It's just like, even the immediacy of it all, like, it's just like, you're gone, Eddie's back in.
There's a real window to feel sorry for Dave Rennie here, because he was quoted as recently as this day last week, and I had it on the Rugby Daily Pod. He was asked about Eddie Jones coming on board, and he said, well, I don't think anything's changing before the World Cup. And he hadn't spoken to Hamish McLennan, the chairman of Rugby Australia, nor the chief executive recently, he said. But as far as I know, nothing's changing prior to the World Cup. And you're just kind of going, mate, you should have picked up the phone sooner and saw this going. There was an interview with Eddie Jones as well. Donald McRae did it in The Guardian, where he was asked about potentially going on board with somebody else, whoever, whether it's Australia or somebody else. And he's really curtly, in that Eddie Jones way, said, I'm not an assistant coach, mate. So,
mate,
this has been lethal. Yeah, very Eddie Jones like, I think, really.
Yeah, I think there's a definite sense in Australian rugby that they need him on the pitch, and they need to have a rapid fire turnaround of fortunes, and he's going to be there for the Lions tour as well, and he's going to be there for the next World Cup in Australia. But also, rugby union's in absolute crisis off the pitch. It's losing ground rapidly to league, to AFL, and that maybe just the persona and the ego and the gravitas that Eddie Jones brings it, they might start getting a little bit more attention over there as well.
Yeah, possibly. It's been losing ground forever, is the truth. But certainly they're in financial crisis. So somebody that's going to get them in the news constantly is probably not a bad thing.
News from both Bohemians and Shamrock Rovers, but which of them do you think is higher up on the news round?
You have to go to the better known name, Nathan. And Bohemians have confirmed the appointment of Pat Fenlon as the club's new director of football. Bo's former player and manager served in a similar capacity with Waterford before taking on the general manager's job at Linfield 4 years ago. Fenlon says he'll oversee football operations at Bo's along with the club's board. Well, as you mentioned there, Shamrock Rovers have signed Estonia international midfielder Marcus Poom. The 23-year-old joins on a season-long loan from Flora Tallinn. Poom is the son of former Derby County and Arsenal goalkeeper Mart, and already has 15 international caps to his name, and continues the influx as well of internationals from Estonia over the past couple of weeks.
I saw the name Poom and I thought, it must be Mart Poom's brother. Mart Poom is a son old enough to
you're
play
way older than you think
football.
you are.
I know, it's 23. Pat Fenlon at Bows, interesting. I know when they were... it was quite a protracted search for a replacement for Keith Long and getting a new manager, and there was definitely a lot of talk at that time that they maybe needed a director of football in there who could take command of the situation, and there's not many more experience than Pat Fenlon when it comes to Irish football.
Yeah, it's needed, to be honest with you, because you need that bit of a buffer between manager and board, whereby, and this is at any club really at that level, where you need somebody in football terms who knows exactly what they're doing, exactly where the club needs to go, in terms of general direction. And this oversees, as Fenlon mentions in his statement today, oversees the academy, oversees the women's side of things as well. So it's a big job he has on the table for him, but hopefully it should clear up some of the messiness that I guess was in place around the appointment of Declan Devine, which left some people who were maybe applicants for the job a little bit unhappy too, and how that process played out. So somebody with a bit of footballing nous in place there won't be a bad thing.
Tony's been in touch, big Wallaby supporter. Glad to see this morning that Eddie Jones is appointed as head coach. He'll improve the team's performance even with the limited investment from the Australian Institute of Sport. Sadly, Rugby League and AFL receive much more funding.
There you go.
Exciting times ahead, and the appointment has come at the right time, in my opinion. So Rugby Union is the football of Australia, the Irish football of Australia. Massively underfunded compared to their rivals.
Yeah, but with the slight difference that it is not the most popular sport in the country.
Very true.
Whereas
We'll come back to that, I
may
think,
well
later
be
in the
here.
week.
Yeah.
Roy Barrett's comments as well in terms of the lack of funding.
I'll briefly say, a lot of texts coming in accusing, like from United fans justifying it, but also like it's an ABU response. You're only angry because it's United. It's exactly my point at the very start. It's like, it's nothing to do with United. If this had happened with Man City, we'd be having the exact same conversation. And I don't understand why fans of a different team, of a team that this happened to, can't see that. Because if this goal had happened to the other team, they would be fuming. And that's your litmus test. Just think of it that way, and that's your litmus test.
Somebody said when the goal went in, if that's the law is an ass. Like,
Yes.
there's no justifying it in terms of one supporter, your supporter of one club or another. It's just a bad interpretation of the law and needs to be changed.
The entire interpretation, the bigger picture of the offside law, where you can be offside and not interfering but still impact on that passage of play, makes no sense. So that Mo Salah one where he's in an offside position, if the defender leaves it, Salah's offside, but because the defender attempts to play it,
So that it doesn't go through to Salah.
Exactly.
100% offside goal, by the way. And that was Liverpool,
but exactly,
who I apparently love.
But there's anything like that where you can be in an offside position, the ball eventually comes to you, but because something else happens, you're not offside.
Yeah.
Is a nonsense. We're going to be talking Everton in just a couple of minutes, Richie, but obviously a lot of stories about what's going on off the pitch.
Yeah, Merseyside police said today that no threats towards Everton directors were reported prior to Saturday's Premier League game with Southampton. Security advisors told board members to stay away from Goodison Park at the weekend because of safety concerns. Police, though, have confirmed that they are in discussions with Everton, adding they are aware of videos in circulation of fans approaching players' cars after the game.
All right, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Time for just one or two quick stories, Richie.
Coco Gauff is going to meet Emma Raducanu in the Australian Open women's second round. They beat Katerina Siniakova and Tamara Korpach, respectively, in straight sets today. Top seed Iga Swiatek, Jessica Pegula and Maria Sakkari all advanced without dropping a set as well today. Daniel Medvedev opened his Melbourne campaign with an easy victory. The back-to-back runner-up beat Marcus Giron for the loss of just 3 games and will face John Millman in round 2. That's a tricky one for Medvedev. Rafa Nadal needed 4 sets to beat Jack Draper, and there were also wins today for third seed Stefanos Tsitsipas and Felix Auger-Aliassime.
All right, Richie, great stuff. Thank you as always.
Nice and lads.
Michael.
Cheers, Nathan.
Thank you. It is time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
It is definitely a blue Monday. For whoever missed our call this afternoon, that missed call means we've a rollover. If you entered since 5 on Friday, you're still in the draw, but you need to know this new number, which is